Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Parr, and this is an update to a video that I did recently that explained different ways to submit work into Edsby from different platforms. And the goal here is to try to help people who are sometimes struggling to work with Edsby understand how it works and hopefully get around many of those issues that we're having with submission. So the first thing I'd like to do is just sort of give you a really quick little snippet snapshot of the way teachers interact with Edsby so that you know what we're trying to do. So when I'm running Edsby, I'm trying to get my students to submit all their work into something called Gradebook. You can see up here, I've got 34 submissions waiting for me to mark. Mr. Parr is going to be busy. The idea is that students can submit it straight there because it's in Gradebook that we do our reporting and report cards and all that other stuff. Now, some of your teachers are going to use Google Classroom, and that's great too. But for some of us, many of us, Edsby is the platform that we use to communicate with parents and other teachers and to post work in our class and everything. So that's where we want to work out of. So this is my class. It's my grade 9 applied class. And so what we can see here is postings that I've done recently, plot diagram activity that we did this morning, and then some links, obviously, because we're doing WebExes as we go. So all the lessons and everything they're all here, right? And the reason why teachers sometimes like that is obviously we can do all this reporting in one spot, and we have a planner, and the planner then can show all the work that we've done over the days and then all the different files and attachments, and that's really, really good. But the other thing that's really helpful is there's something called Gradebook, and that's where we keep all of our marks in that. And what you'll see if you take a look down the side here in pink, these are all the unmarked assignments that I've got. And then in white, you'll see the ones that I've opened up and marked. And so over here, the number, you'll see little check marks, and the check mark represents a piece of work that's been done. So if I click on down here at the bottom on Braden's work, I can view the submission, and I can see he submitted his story in PDF form to me, and I can open that up and I can mark it. So it makes things very, very quick for the teacher, very, very easy. And there's a record of all the work you've done. It's really, really an easy thing to use. So the problem has been sharing files. Some people have struggled to share files into Edsby. So when teachers are using Edsby, they create assignments like this. Right here, I've got plot diagram. And in this assignment that the kids will be doing, and it's due at noon today, they'll have a little link on their view. Their view will be a little bit different, but it'll say plot diagram activity, and there'll be a little button, and they could submit their work. Now, how do you submit the work? Well, for a lot of you, you work out of Google, and we have, obviously, there's Microsoft as a platform, and iOS as a platform, and Android, Google as a platform. So let's take a look at just some text here. This is some questions for chapter 10 that they were working on. Now, this is just the blank. It doesn't have the answers, but imagine that the answers are all here. This is some student work. So how do I share it? Well, some of you would just hit the share button, or you would go over here and file, share, and expect it to or just copy the link, right? And it'll share. I've got a lot of these. People just copy the URL. Well, that's not going to work in Edsby, because understand, Google's pretty flexible within Google. So you can share lots of different ways as long as you stay inside of Google. But when you have to share from Google to another platform, you have to be a little more particular about it. It works still, but you have to be a bit more particular. So if I want to share this, the first and best way to do it, if I want to share it as a link, is I'm going to go up to the Google Drive, my Google Drive, and I'm going to find that exact file in my Google Drive, right? And it should be right up in here somewhere. There it is, copy of chapter 10. And I am going to make sure that I get the link. And when I get my link, I'm going to make sure that it's not restricted, because if it's restricted, it won't open outside of the Google Classroom platform or outside of KPR. And even though Edsby is in KPR, it sort of isn't. It doesn't. It's a technical thing. So I'm going to make sure that anyone with the link can open it. And I'm going to make sure that my teacher has editor comments, because I want feedback. I want the teacher to tell me what I did right and what I did wrong. So when I do that, I can copy the link. Now, if I go over to Edsby, right, I can attach it. I can attach it anywhere in Edsby. So if I was just making this as a general message, or in this case, if I click on my diagram button on the student side, I can attach the link. I'll just use the note function to show you what I mean. So I can now click here on the note function, right? Actually, here on the note function, and I can paste the link right in there. Just give it a second. It'll do some thinking. And now I copy of chapter 10 questions, and boom, now they're there. Now this link is live, and now when I share it, I can actually open it up, which I couldn't do before, right? So if I just copied the URL at the top, it would not have worked. So that is one way to copy links. Is that the only way? No, it's not at all. Let's go back here. How else could I share a link with a teacher? Well, another way to share a link with a teacher is to go up to File, right? And then what we want to do is share, but now we want to make sure we share it with the teacher's email, with their name, right? So, and by the way, I need to be inside of the KPR operating platform. So I don't want to use my own personal Google, because if I do it, I have to make sure that I make a few other minor changes. But inside of here, I can just type in my name, and I can actually give myself editor privileges, and I can send that document to me. And if I do, I go over to my mail, that file will show up right there, chapter 10 questions. That's another way to share the link, right? It's not inside of Edsby, but at least the teacher can open it. And if I can open it, then I can go back to my Edsby and do it. That's another option. Is there another way to share inside of Edsby? Well, yes, there is. Another way to share inside of Edsby is to create a file that you can transport to Edsby, either a doc file, which is a Microsoft Word file, docx, or a PDF file, which is really just basically a glorified picture that you can then share. So how do I do that? Well, inside of Google Docs, if you click on File, there's options to download it in different formats. So if I download this as a PDF file, right? Now I'm going to take this file, download as a PDF file. I can click on it down here in my tray, and this is now a PDF file. And I just have to choose where I want to save it. Now, everybody's PDF reader will be a little bit different. Sometimes you'll have a save option, wherever. This one just has this button here. And so I can choose which folder I want to save it in. So I want to save it in, I call it chapter 10 testing. So I'm just testing the process here. I just give it a name and I save it in the folder that I want. And then all I have to do is go and get the file. So if I go back to my Edsby and say I want to share the file, I want to put the file in as a link or share it, I just click. If I was down here submitting my plot diagram activity, I would just click on that link that would give me the option, and I could find the chapter 10 testing, attach it. Now it's there. If I had put in a message or whatever, or however I'm submitting it, and it would appear for the teacher to open. That's another way to do it. So you can save it as a docx file or a PDF. And you can do this as well inside of iOS. So if you're in iOS, and many of you prefer to live in the Apple universe, and that's good, all you have to do is make sure that you save the file as a PDF file or as a doc file or docx file. It's going to want to save, typically if you're using an Apple computer, it'll want to save as a Pages document, and nothing on KPR opens Pages very easily, pretty much not at all. So the best way to do it is to just go and save the file in a different format as a PDF, which Pages will easily do for you, and then you can copy that file the same way over. So that's a third way to do it. Is there any other way? Well, there's what I call the last resort way. The last resort is to write your answers out in whatever format you've got, whether you're in Word or whether you're using Open Office or any other thing. And by the way, Open Office will let you save files as PDFs and docs. So whichever platform you're using, if you can't save it or it's just not working. So say things are they're being cantankerous and they're not working. the last resort is to just copy the text of your answers, right? So I can go here and I can just highlight all of my answers that I want to submit and pretend that these things that I've just got here are the answers I want to submit. I can just copy them and I can go to Edsby. And if I'm really in a tough hole and nothing's going to work, or I don't have much bandwidth or whatever, I can just go over to my messages. And what I can do from my messages is I can just create a message, right? And I can send that message to Mr. Parr. And I can just I can just paste in my answers. That would be my last resort, right? If nothing else is working. And there's my message. So these are all options that are available to you to try to move your files, move yourself to Edsby. So just to recap, the best option, probably the very best option, is if you're going to send a link, to go to Google Drive, pick the file you want, whatever that file is, get the link, make sure it's not restricted, make sure that the teacher has editor capacity for it, and then copy the link to Edsby or in a message or wherever you want to, however you want to do it. The second best way to do that, if you want to do a link, is from the folder here, is from within KPR, right? I'm going to share it and I'm going to use the teacher's name. So if it's Mr. Stokes, type in Daniel Stokes, right? I'll see that it's Mr. Stokes, and then I can send it and he'll get an email version of it. Probably the next best way to do it is to save it or download it, right? Either as a Word document or as a PDF document. RTF works too, rich text format works too, but some of the coding sometimes gets a little wonky, but all the text will still be there. If what you're sending is coding dependent, you want like graphs and charts to be there, I wouldn't use RTF. But either one of these two will work really seamlessly through Google. And you can attach that, save that file somewhere, and then attach the file. And then the final way to do it, obviously, is just to copy and paste the text of your answers into a message. Hopefully that will help you navigate Edsby a little bit better, at least in terms of sharing some files. Thank you for listening.